I've been using the Galaxy S23 Ultra for a full 24 hours, and these are my impressions so far. The biggest thing about the Galaxy S23 Ultra that you're probably curious about is the camera. It's Samsung's first phone to come with a 200 megapixel camera, and if you watch Samsung's Unpacked presentation, you know that Samsung is really playing up the video capabilities of this phone. It even brought in Ridley Scott to show off the camera, so this is something that Samsung is really pitching towards cinematographers, but we're going to cover all of that later in our full review and start out with just some early photo samples based on the time we've had with it so far. So the first thing that's really stood out to me about the camera is how well it takes portraits in low light scenarios. I took this picture of my coworker Claire in our really dark podcast studio at CNET's headquarters, and she was very surprised at how well lit she looked. And not only the lighting, because a lot of modern smartphones can provide really good lighting in low light scenarios, but she really thought this was a flattering photo that had a lot of detail and color in her face. And comparing this photo to the same picture taken on the Pixel 7 Pro, she thought her face just looked more vibrant and was actually kind of similar to the way she would light herself when filming her own videos, while the Pixel 7 Pro's photo made her look a little bit gray and muddy and just didn't do as great of a job with her skin tone. But again, this is just one low light photo, so we're going to do a lot more testing before we really make final judgments about the S23 Ultra's camera. But based on what we've seen so far, this seems like a pretty promising start. Now, when it comes to mixed lighting, I also took a photo of my friend Claire just in our main kitchen area where there's a mix of natural light and indoor lighting. And the S23 Ultra did a pretty good job. Again, it's really big on color. You can really tell when you look at her lipstick and her cheeks. And, you know, it kind of softens her face a little bit. And she did like this photo, but she actually kind of said that it didn't make her look as natural. It almost looked like there was a filter over the photo. Now, the Pixel 7 Pro's photo, on the other hand, does look more natural, but it's also a bit more harsh. So it really depends on what your preference is. Some people might prefer the color and the softness that Samsung provides. Some might prefer the more natural look of the Pixel 7 Pro's photos. Now, Samsung is also really making a big deal about the new selfie camera on its new phones. I purposely took this selfie in challenging lighting just to see how well it holds up. So this was taken in my hotel room, which is pretty dim, and it's kind of near a window, which is not an ideal place to take a photo. And it did an okay job. It did much better than the Pixel 7 Pro. As you can see, that photo looks a lot more dim than the Galaxy S23 Ultra's, but I actually preferred the Galaxy S22 Ultra's photo in this scenario. It actually has a lot more detail, and the Galaxy S23 Ultra is supposed to provide more detail in selfies. Samsung said it did a lot of work behind the scenes to create better object segmentation, which means it should be able to separate you from your background, and also just like fine details like strands of hair. It should be better at separating all of that stuff and providing more detail. But again, this is just one selfie that I've taken so far. I'm going to take many more, and these are just a few early photo samples, so we can't make any big conclusions yet, but this is just an early look at what we can probably expect from the S23 Ultra's camera. Otherwise, you'll probably notice that the Galaxy S23 Ultra looks a lot like the S22 Ultra. It has that same boxy design, that same really big 6.8-inch screen, and that same S Pen. So there's a lot of similarities here. One of the physical differences is that it comes in new color options. This is the cream option that I'm holding right here, and it looks pretty nice. It's kind of like an off-white color, but I really do like it. I think it has a very classy type of look that still stands out. It also comes in lavender and green and black like last year. There's also a new processor in this phone that we're excited to try out. It's the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 processor, but it's actually been optimized for these new Samsung devices specifically, which should result in some better performance and power efficiency. We haven't had enough time to really weigh in on that yet, but our full review will definitely have more details about that. And in terms of battery life, this has a 5,000 milliamp battery, just like the S22 Ultra, so I don't know if we're going to see many improvements. Anecdotally, I started out the day at 100%, and it's almost lunchtime, and it's down to about 90%. So we should be seeing decent battery life, but again, we're going to have to really spend more time with it before we know for sure. So that's an early look at the Galaxy S23 Ultra. Be sure to check out our full review when it's live, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.